Is your tour guide, and his name is Ben. Okay.
Alright. Right here, you see what we call the twins. The twins are the largest stalagmites which we have in this cave. And if you look closely at them, you'll be able to see that there's no water on them right now. They're what we call dormant. This past summer, the lighter twin, the one on the left, was active. It was still growing, but the one on the right has been dormant for as long as we've known about this cave. This unpredictable dormancy of these deposits in the cave is part of what makes these deposits very hard to tell their age, what makes it very hard to tell the age of these deposits. Now, we usually figure that it takes about 100 years for every cubic inch of these deposits to form. But this is only an estimation. We really have no way to tell for sure, partially, because of this dormancy. It could be between a third that to 3 times that figure. In this area, you can see some of the different color. In this area, you can see some of the different colorations which our deposits have. Now again, they're all made out of calcite, but some of the calcite has been stained by different things which the water that picked it up flowed through as it came through the ground. The white area there is almost pure calcite. It has not been stained very much at all. The area around the white has been stained by pigments from dead leaves or animals that the water flowed through on its way here. Also, there's a large reddish-brown stalagmite right here that's been stained by iron oxide. Now, you may know that iron oxide is rust. So basically, there's an iron ore deposit somewhere above that stalagmite that the water flows through or around on its trip here. Give me a second, come on. Can you zoom in on the areas I'm talking about at the time I talk about them?
Yeah.
Or do you want to talk about this, or what? I mean, since you can see through that thing.
The King's Canopy lit up?
Yeah, it's lit. You want me to film? Alright, in this area you can see a couple of different things. First of all, right down in there is what we call the Lost River. Now, if you were to follow the Lost River down that passageway right there, you'd go for about a quarter of a mile. Then you'd come to that narrow spot. That is where we lose the Lost River. We really don't know where the river comes from. It comes from that direction somewhere. We so far have not found the water source, though. Also, right over here, we have what we call the King's Canopy. The King's Canopy is the largest flowstone which we have in this cave. It is dormant, though. It's no longer growing. Hasn't been for quite some time. At some time in the past, the Lost River has changed its course and carved the ground out from underneath the King's Canopy, making it a freestanding natural bridge. And by freestanding natural bridge, I mean that the only thing that's holding it up is the back side of it. We're now passing through the little bear room.
Okay, what we're looking at right down here is what we call our Devil's Shower, and it is a dome pit. It falls about approximately 55 feet deep, and it is very active, as you can see. Some of the water dripping down in there. A little later we'll be seeing the Devil's Bathtub, and you'll notice quite a difference in size. Devil's Bathtub is inactive and quite a bit smaller than this.
Alright, in these boxes we have some bear bones that we found in the cave. They are petrified. In fact, they're very old. We're really not sure the exact age of them, simply because we haven't dated them. Also, we have no way to tell how the bear died. It's possible that simply just got lost and starved. In this area, you can see some breakage. This breakage is caused by the natural settling of these deposits, which are very heavy, and they slowly sink into the soft ground beneath them, eventually cracking at a weak point. Gradually over the years, these cracks will expand and form these large breaks like you see here. A lot of people think that this breakage is caused by earthquakes, but it's not. In fact, the cave is a very safe place to be during an earthquake because most of the waves that earthquakes have flow near the surface, and thus most of the damage done during an earthquake is done at the surface.
Okay, right here we're looking at one of the best examples of flowstone in the cave, and why we call this one of our best examples is because of how milky white the calcite that you see is.
In these little pools here, you can see some small, what we call cave pearls, or areas where the crystals have started to form underneath these little pools that were formed by the flow of the water over this flowstone.
Okay, what we're looking at in here is what we call our Rock of Ages, and this is our Rock of Ages room. These two deposits in the middle are believed to be two of the oldest we have in the cave. This room's also been called our room of 1,000,001 stalactites, and if you look at some of these deposits on the ceiling, there are quite a few. This room also has quite a few other names for it. It's also been called our taco room and our chamber of total darkness, and if you wait just a moment, we'll be seeing the taco. Okay. What we're looking at here is what we call a calcite shield, and it is one of the reasons, or it is the reason that this room has also been called the taco room. What this is most of the deposits that we've seen are formed from gravity. The water is always dripping down. This deposit is formed from pretty much the opposite. It's formed from something we call the wick effect, and the wick effect is pressurized water being pushed up between two plates of rock, and you can see one of the plates of rock overlapping right there. And these minerals start to build up on top of each other until they form this calcite shield. Now this is a very, very rare deposit. You don't see too many of them in this part of Missouri at all. You see quite a bit more of them in northwest Missouri, but it is the only one like it we have in the cave, and the only one like it that we have around here as far as I know. Okay.
The area which we see right now is the underside of the King's Canopy. You can see the King's Canopy right there. Also, down here you can see the passage from which the Lost River comes. Again, we really don't know the source of the river, but we can follow it about a quarter of a mile down that passageway. This is one of the prettier parts of the cave. Right in here in the center of the screen, you can see one of the 5 species of bats we have in this cave. This bat is actually fairly small. The length of its body is probably about 2 inches. And most of the bats in this part of the world are about that size. There are some bats in some parts of the world, however, that have a wingspan of as much as 4 feet. Now, a lot of people think that bats are pests, but actually they're very good to have around, because they can eat about 500 mosquitoes every hour. So bats are a very positive influence on our society.
All right, we're in what we call our big room now, and this is the largest room in the cave, and its dimensions are about 125 feet wide by 450 feet long. Now, from where we're standing to the ceiling is about 65 feet, and from the ceiling to the surface of the ground is about 80 feet. So you could say right here we're about 145 feet underground. Right over here, what we're looking at is the largest active flowstone in the cave. Now, a little while ago we saw the King's Canopy, and it was the largest flowstone in the cave, but it was dormant. This Queen's Canopy, is about 40 feet high by 20 feet wide, and It is believed, and we don't know this for sure, that in 1892 this Queen's Canopy was dubbed at being worth about $1 million. Right about that time, the onyx was in great demand, and that was before they found out that when taken out of the cave onyx is just about worthless. On a hardness scale of 1 to 10, chalk is the softest at 1, and diamond is the hardest at 10. This cave onyx is about a 3, and your fingernail is about a 2.5, so it doesn't hold up very well at all. Plus the humidity we have in the cave is about 98 to 100% all the time. And whenever this Queen's Canopy or any cave onyx is taken out of the cave, it just starts to dry up and crumble away. Alright, this room that we're in now is what we call our lily pad room, and if you look at this lily pad right here, you can see or maybe make out a green stain in there. What this green stain is from, where people used to throw their coins, they throw their pennies or any kind of coins in there, and the mineral content of this water is very high. When they throw their coins in there, this water would start to break away at them and deposit this green stain. You see now the stain can't be taken off with water. The water just won't take it off, and it can't be taken off with chemicals because chemicals would ruin the deposit. Now these lily pads are formed kind of differently. Also, if you can picture this room with no groundwater in it, all we have are the stalagmites and the stalactites. Then there was groundwater in this room. It's about 5 foot high. If it gets any higher than this, it spills off because this water does have a natural spill to it. Anytime, so now we have the stalactites, stalagmites, and the groundwater. Anytime after that, any water would drip from the ceiling into the water, these minerals would just float on top of the water, and then collect to the first thing they came to. So if you look right over here, you can see these columns. You can see the shelf work down here from where the minerals kind of floated through the water and collected over against these columns, form the shelf work, and they collect to the tip of the stalagmites and form the lily pads that you see are the plates. Now these redstone dams in here in the water, these are formed a bit differently. These are formed from the minerals that couldn't float, and they sink down to the bottom of the floor, and they finally collect together and form the redstone dam that you see. Alright, this room is a lot like our lily pad room. It's what we call our lily pad area. As you can tell, the lily pads are a lot closer together. Now these are quite a bit more sturdy than they look. At one time, people used to take their shoes off and walk across these lily pads, and you can see that there's hardly any damage done. At one time or another, these lily pads will form a false floor all the way across the water, but I don't think any of us will be around to see that. It will take hundreds of years. Okay, a little earlier we saw the Devil's Shower, and it was a very active domed pit. What we're looking at now is a very inactive domed pit, which what we call the Devil's Bathtub. It's mostly... Okay, if you look down there, you can see about 2.5 to 3 foot of water. Doesn't even really look that deep due to how clear the water is. Most of the rock that we have around here is dolomite, and we also see quite a bit of clay in some places. Well, this domed pit was believed at one time to be filled with dolomite and clay. Water from our Lost River came through and washed it all out, and that's why they now call it the Devil's Bathtub. Alright, right up here we see our first basic type of deposit, and this is what we call our stalactites. We also see quite a few soda straws. Now these are formed from water seeping through the ground. It collects a lot of minerals and deposit on the ceiling, and these minerals start to build up underneath each other until they form the soda straws. Now these are hollow in the middle and about the same size all the way down. After a period of time they will get clogged up, and that's when they form the stalactites. Now after that, the water dribs down and starts to form on the floor of the cave all the way up until they form the stalagmite. And these minerals, they build up on top of each other to form these stalagmites, and they come down from the ceiling on the stalactites, and sometimes they meet and form what we call a column. Probably the most well-liked deposit we have in the